Hello, Black America. Hello, Black America.
Good afternoon, family. I'm Curtis Cheatham Jr., and welcome to This Week in Black America. And here's the rundown of this past week's highlights. The unrest in the Middle East has escalated as the U.S. drops bombs on Iran. What are the implications, and was it even successful? We'll discuss it right here. In the New York City mayoral primary race, had some surprises for the political establishment this week. And is this a message to the Democrats? You'll also want to hear some of the ideas the Republicans are floating about this as well. And another impeachment effort falls short this week. But what does the crossover support from the Democrats, what does that signal? And the very first victim of the Trump crackdown on free speech was finally released this week. We'll discuss all that and more on This Week in Black America. And as always, I got my brother Deshaun here with me. How are you, brother Deshaun?
I feel great, man. Great to see you as always. Happy to always be by your side. Happy to be able to bring these happenings for the week to our people. And you know, if you're new here, what we do is we catch up on what happened throughout the week. You know, there's so many things happening, and a lot of us are busy. A lot of us, you know, we don't have the time. We do. We make it happen for you. If you don't have the time, you just meet us here on Fridays. We're normally here at 12 noon. We have some brand new tech, and I was trying to set it up, so it's my fault. We're a little delayed today, but we are normally here 12 noon Eastern time to 1:30. And if the conversation gets really good, we'll go to about 2 o'clock. But feel free to hit the like button if you're going to spend a couple minutes with us. We got a lot to catch you up on this week. And what we like to do is not just tell you what happened, but we like to dialogue with you about how this uniquely affects our community as Black Americans and the Black diaspora. So that's kind of our little spin on the weekly news. So as always, we welcome you. Feel free to dialogue. We'll bring your comments right into the show live. And Curtis, let's kick it off. We got a lot to talk about. So what's first on the agenda?
Well, I think we have to head over to the Middle East. That is actually Africa, but we don't want to get into that. But anyway, the U.S. decided to jump into the Iranian Israeli conflict that's been going on. We talked a little about it last week, of course. And at that point, in fact, I guess it was after our show last week, the president made the big announcement that he was going to take maybe 2 weeks to decide if indeed he wanted to get into this conflict. And lo and behold, it was, I don't even know if it was 24 hours later, there was this several bomb strikes. 14, I believe it was, massive bombs were these bunker busting bombs that supposedly have the ability to go under the earth and strike targets. 14 of these bombs were dropped by stealth bombers, so they were undetected. They hit these, and then they were some other missiles that were launched from a ship that was also harbored nearby. So in total, you know, they did some damage, or at least, well, reportedly they did some damage. So, but now
who's reporting.
Exactly. So the U.S. they called it the Operation Midnight Hammer, and apparently they did some misdirection where they sent some B-2s off in one direction and then, you know, with transponders on them so they could be, you know, tracked. But then they sent a separate set of B-2 bombers in a different direction with minimal communication and no transponders in them, so they couldn't be tracked. So a little subterfuge. I'm not mad at that.
Mm-hmm.
let's just get into it. What are your thoughts? I mean, was this a given that the U.S. was going to get into this? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, when I saw that the U.S. had dropped the bombs on Iran, it was really like, I mean, there was a period of time where we all just, I think there was a probably global worry about, this looks like World War III. This looks like, and it's funny because there were clips going around of former presidential candidate, former Vice President Kamala Harris saying that President Trump was actually going to bring us to a war with Iran. So those clips started circulating
Right.
last week, and because it's like this is what it looks like. But the reports, hey, we destroyed the nuclear base. This was a global security threat. We did this for everyone. We did this for U.S. national security, and frankly, to me and to other people, I think it looked like, okay, the support you have for Israel is what led you to do this. Now, maybe it's other things. We never know. I mean, when we look at why these wars take place, obviously money, but what's the real reason? We never know. They'll tell us, oh, we did this in terms of security. We did this for democracy in that state. We did this for various things. But for me, it was just like, we talked last week about the Iranian sleeper cells, about people who are in the country, got into the country through open borders, and really could just be waiting to be activated. So I think there was a big sense of worry. And when I hear you destroyed their nuclear base, I'm just like, so they're just going to take that laying down? Even if you did, they're just going to bow. Like, this is a country, by the way, everyone, of 90 million people. This isn't a small country. So, it's not, I know Western media kind of makes it look like all of these places are just little villages. You get off the plane, it's just a bunch of people in the desert standing around with M15s, and this is an entire country. And so what I wanted to look for was, what was the Iranian supreme leader going to say?
Right.
When was he going to speak? Because, and he spoke out, I believe, the next day, because we're getting all of these reports. And frankly, I'm over at my father's house. We couldn't believe how much they were trying to chump these guys off. I'm hearing things where it's like, hey, hey. One of the guys said it's like Roberto Duran, where Iran was just like, no mas. Like they're clowning him. They're clowning him on national television. And I'm just like, I don't know if the confidence y'all are displaying to us is actually what Iran is feeling right now.
Absolutely.
And sure enough, when the Iranian supreme leader spoke yesterday morning, he confirmed all of that stuff y'all are hearing. All of that stuff y'all are hearing,
that ain't
it. That ain't it. Good to see you, Lions Den. Karima checking in. Love Lions Den platform. Yeah, shout out to Benita. Thank you to always good to see our co-host checking in. But that for me, Curtis, told the story, because again, we can sit here and we can listen to what they're going to tell us throughout the week, what President Trump is going to put out on Truth Social. But when we start to hear some other perspectives, that's when we can kind of put it together and see, okay, who's really telling us the truth. And what he said is, the United States is saying they destroyed our nuclear operation. They're out of their minds. This is exactly how he was saying it, basically. I'm paraphrasing it, but it was just like, what are they even talking about? Basically, like, I mean, did you get something different?
No, but I agree. It's just like, all right, but for me, and this is a thing with this administration that it seems to be a pattern, that don't believe what your eyes have seen type thing. They want to kind of craft the narrative a lot of times. And I find it interesting that the Pentagon, which is the people who are supposed to, the military experts, said in their preliminary report that they weren't sure that this was a total annihilation. But, the president scripted it and crafted the message as if it was, even the night when he went on the air and spoke for whatever it was, 5-10 minutes, and was talking about how great this was, in his limited vocabulary. He was just, this was a great strike and our people. Now, did you hear this? And I didn't confirm this, but did you see reports on social media that this was actually the speech that he gave was actually the speech that the Japanese leader did in World War II? The script. So they were trying to present it as, remember when Melania copied Michelle Obama's inauguration speech? So they were kind of comparing it to that, in that Trump actually, it looked like, now in the age of AI, I must confess I didn't go deep to clear this up, but it was interesting that they were actually saying that he copied the speech of the Japanese leader when they attacked Pearl Harbor back in World War II. So, I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Trump, they saying President Trump.
That's what I've seen this week on social media. Unverified. Let me just go. Can
anybody verify that? Good to see a lot of our co-hosts checking in Meraki Media, and Meraki Media is more than a co-host. They're the fourth part of this team. You guys don't know, but Meraki and Mickey, we couldn't do this show without them. We're like the four legs on the table. So I always we would be remiss not to mention that. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So, but yes, can anybody verify that or whether this President Trump speech was actually copied? Because yes, in the world of AI, certainly it is going to get easier and easier for us to not be able to verify who, if this person even said this. But again, we do know Melania Trump.
That we know. That we verify.
There was no AI.
AI.
Took Michelle Obama's whole speech and just, ran it down. Like,
just jacked it.
We jacking speeches now. So
clearly we know they're not above it. Let's put it that way. We know that they're not above it. At least
jack a speech, we'd never. You actually have. It's just,
listen,
will you keep doing it?
I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT is putting some of these speeches together, frankly. Which
well, the question that we just posed to the co-host watching now is, do we think that this Iran, Israel, U.S. ceasefire is final? Because one thing I want to say about Netanyahu is he just seems to be it seems he goes looking for trouble. And I'm gonna say it like this: if you continually find a reason to be the aggressor, to be on the offense, yes, of course, if you're attacked by October 7th, you get attacked, yeah, all right, let's go. You just engaged us. But he's been saying for many, many years that Iran could build a nuclear weapon. And
he's been saying it for years that they're weeks away. He's been saying this for years that they've been weeks away.
Yeah, he's been actually saying this so long. Hold on, let's just play a clip so you guys can understand that this whole thing, and I think we need to really this will give us a clear perspective concerning Netanyahu and his thoughts.
Have you ever wondered why car insurance rates?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm not logged into my premium account. All right, forgive me, y'all.
Even though
forgive me. Listen, we got YouTube Premium. I just so happen to be in a different YouTube account right now. All right, let's skip this ad. Here we go. All right, here we go. Check this out.
You've probably heard this line before.
Iran has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them.
That's because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this for more than 30 years, claiming Iran is close to having
Nuclear weapons, nuclear weapons, nuclear weapons, atomic bombs.
In 1992, as a member of parliament, Netanyahu addresses the Knesset. He says, within 3 to 5 years, we can assume that Iran will become autonomous in its ability to develop and produce a nuclear bomb.
1992.
3 years
1992.
fighting terrorism, he repeats the same time frame, 3 to 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Fast forward
1995.
to 2002. Netanyahu testifies before a U.S. congressional committee actively calling for the invasion of Iraq.
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
You hear that question? Are there any other nations you would recommend the United States launch preemptive attacks on? So the attack that we just saw, that was a preemptive attack. They're going to do this. Let's attack them first.
Absolutely. The nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons is Iraq and Iran.
The invasion
So that was 2002, I believe.
Yes.
So we'll see all through this, and I won't play the whole clip. It's easy to find.
By next
Look,
spring, at most, by next summer.
by next spring at most, next summer.
Yeah.
Look, what year is this?
By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium. So
I mean, we're not idiots here. This man has been saying this for 33 years. Those clips went viral all week long. You probably saw this. Some of you see some of the clip of him repeating this to get America to attack them. That was the whole goal. He's before committees to try to engage these preemptive attacks that he just got. President Trump is the one that everyone else heard him, didn't attack Iran. President Trump finally, okay, I think I believe this guy. Well, whether it's true or not, doesn't seem to be true because they never did anything with all of this nuclear stuff over the last 33 years. So I'm not a fan of Netanyahu at all. I don't think he's a peaceful guy. I think
isn't he being pursued as actively as like a war criminal? Like he's got war criminal charges like pending
from
against
the United Nations. From the United Nations, the international courts are literally trying to, is trying to pursue him as a war criminal. So again, we all know. You want to know who you want to know who runs things. Look at who you can't criticize. And when it comes to we gotta be careful because we're on their platform. So
listen, that's all right. I'm trying to be a better version of myself. So
let me ask you: Do you think this is going to last? Where do you see this going from here? Because are you like still concerned? People were thinking like, hey, should we not be in public places? I gotta pray more. Like, is Iran chilling out, or are they just kind of sitting and planning and plotting? Do you think this ceasefire is like, okay, that's over, or do you? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
The Iranian people don't seem to me to be the type of people that will just lay down. They seem like they're playing the game. We got the ceasefire going. But one thing we've seen is that these folks, they have long memories. We saw it with the culmination of it with 9/11, but those things were stuff that had happened, were the result of things that had happened years and years before. So what we're seeing now, we might not see the final piece of this for 10, 12, 15 years, who knows? They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Meaning, obviously, sometimes you just gotta let things chill out a little bit before, let the dust settle a little bit and then come back, circle back on them. So I don't personally believe that. I believe that the Iranians are proud people, and I don't think that they will. They may play this game for a while and make it seem as if they're playing along, but I'm not sure that they actually are. And you know what, this administration, the week heading up to this, our president, and we talked about this a lot. Our president has a tendency to go on social media, on his Truth Social, and blurt things out. And I'm just was thinking the last week, even like, why are you talking so much about this? You're basically telling the Iranians, hey, we're thinking about coming in and bombing you guys. All right. So there are reports now that I forget the exact amount, but a lot of the enriched uranium that Iran was suspected of having, all of a sudden the international watchdogs are like, yeah, all that uranium's unaccounted for, or at least like a lot of it is unaccounted for. So while you're talking, a good leader would do what? Maybe we should move this stuff. Shh, don't say nothing.
Yep.
Just start. Let's just move all this stuff somewhere else. Right.
That's what Lions Den said. Lions Den. Oh, they said, hey, they moved that a long time ago. In fact, they have I guess, I don't know if it's satellite imagery,
right,
of multiple trucks leaving that location,
right,
prior to the bomb.
And they were saying they don't know if the trucks were offloading uranium, or if perhaps they were bringing in dirt to reinforce the facility. Y'all must be drinking some kind of Kool-Aid, because it only, you've heard the term, it's an old term, loose lips sink ships.
Oh yeah. Also
we've got a president in the office that just loves to talk. Now this isn't, well, all right,
no, go ahead.
It's just a fact. He just, I mean, he has this social media presence. He wakes up in the middle of the night and just says things,
we said it yesterday. We were laughing. It's like, we like, it's like he says, they're not talking about me enough. I'm going to give them something to talk about. Like, at any given time. Wait till they read this. Yeah.
So
he even said, to your point, he literally said, our military, I guess the fighter jets, or who it was the military that was on their way back from the strike,
right,
have safely landed in Missouri.
I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
why?
So this is the stealth team. This is the stealth.
They were stealth the whole way. Now you're gonna tell the whole thing, right? Like, it's like he can't. It's like he can't let it just be, because he's got to point attention to it, and just instead of just letting it be, whatever it is, and that's dangerous, I think, for the country.
That just, to your point, he is not able to keep. And look, with highly classified, with the art of war, I haven't read the book, but I would think just don't let your enemy know your next move.
That's probably in there. That's probably in there somewhere.
In the early pages. It's not even
like
there.
In the forward. It's like, just in general, as a general thing.
Let me give you something all of you should know. Don't let your enemy know your next move. Certainly don't tweet about it.
Oh my goodness.
So we're talking about this, y'all, because we're talking about this affects our national security. When we have an incredible military, shout out to the U.S. military, the best military in the world, in so many areas. But a lot of it, we never knew about. We never knew when they were going to hit stuff. We never knew, the day they got bin Laden. We didn't know they got bin Laden until we saw President Trump walking up to the podium, it was done already.
It was Obama. Let's just.
I thought I said President Obama.
No, I said President Trump. You said Trump.
The devil
I
is a
want
liar.
to clear that up.
The devil is a liar. Sometimes, no, when we saw President Obama walk up, we got the reports. Yo, thank you, DCO Fly. No, listen, I will never make that mistake again. I'm gonna tell you that. So,
Hey,
but that's how the U.S. military ran. Now they were able to keep some things from us that we're like, hey, but again, they're just carrying out orders. They're not the ones that. So it's like, even if we got, hey, why'd y'all go into Iraq? Why'd y'all go saying it was weapons of mass destruction? It wasn't. It was really for it was really for oil. It was really for this. It was really whatever it was. The military execution is precise. They don't broke. So when you got a commander in chief that's like, well, we could see a different level of security as a nation than what we're used to, because the commander in chief is a different commander in chief and he has a different style. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got. Anything else you got on that, guy?
a very different style. That's an understatement. But I'm
DCO Fly said, I'm about to fight you with that Obama. Mistaken.
hey, giving
I'm about to-
credit. Listen, I would just say this. That we have, and I'll just say this as calmly as possible. We have Netanyahu, who is being pursued as a war criminal. And we have the president of the United States, who is actually a convicted criminal, both crafting a narrative. And what these guys are really good at is marketing. They're both marketing geniuses. I would never use that word, especially about our president, lightly. So they know how to craft the narrative. And what we're seeing is that's what's doing. That's what there's even with his post bombing report, all of that is kind of crafting a narrative, disagreeing with his professional defense people about the level of destruction and all that sort of thing. So
not running it through Congress, by the way.
So that absolutely.
Congress knew nothing about it.
And that's a perfect segue, because the third story here was our man, let's stay together. No, not that Al Green. Representative Al Green from the great state of Texas introduced articles of impeachment this week, basically alleging the exact thing that you said, is that the president basically overstepped his boundaries by dropping bombs without getting congressional consent. And when it was happening, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, wait a second. Doesn't Congress need to authorize the use of force? That's the way we're used to seeing it happen. But this administration has gone about things in its own way. So Al Green proposed articles of impeachment against the president for exceeding his authority and an unauthorized airstrikes against Iran. Now I got to get to the story and get the exact numbers, but I think 100+ Democrats crossed the lines and voted down this resolution.
128.
128.
128. It says a vote to table the impeachment articles passed by a 344-79 margin, with 128 Democrats joining Republicans for the vote to not impeach, to not draft. Was it to draft up articles of impeachment?
No, to actually impeach him, as they did in his first term twice, where he you would in the normal process, the House of Representatives would vote articles of impeachment, and then if the Senate were to confirm them, which they never did in his first administration, Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this situation now, but they never voted to actually convict him. So if you look at it almost from a judicial sense, he was indicted, if you will, by the Congress or by the House of Representatives, but the conviction didn't go through on the Senate side. So what does this say, though? I mean, I guess I can look at it from a couple different ways. This is just really, I don't know, was this just the Democrats saying we're going to support the president because it's the time of war, quote unquote, or we're, you know, if there's some sort of it seems like, you know, whenever the U.S. is attacked or we go into some sort of military conflict, that's a lot of times will galvanize the country. You know, we saw it after 9/11, everybody, you know, people joining the military, everybody like pro-America. And that lasted for a little while. But this is a little different. And it seemed like the Democrats were like, nah, we want to show support for the president's military action rather than kind of going down party lines and showing a little bit of maybe a division in the country. You think that's possibly something that could have played a part in this?
Well, before I even answer this, let me ask you guys. Let's ask our co-host. You know, as Curtis just reported on this article, Congressman Al Green, is he a senator? He's a senator.
No, he's a state representative.
He's a state representative. So Congressman Al Green, he says, "Yo, let's impeach Trump. We knew nothing about this strike. This is also the man that we reported, I think 3 weeks ago, was put in handcuffs. Wasn't he was he the one that was put in handcuffs?
Yeah, they actually voted to censure him. That was back in January, actually, when I think it was January when the president did his joint speech to Congress.
Okay.
He was censured for standing up during that speech, I think, and refusing to sit down. I believe it was the reason.
So this has been a guy who's been taking a stand against President Trump and the administration really since he was inaugurated. Absolutely. And you know, he sees things again. He sees the train picking up speed. I continually say, almost every week, what are the Democrats doing, and what are the people who see the checks and balances being clearly violated? Clearly, forget violate. I don't care about them.
Right.
So the things that were in place to specifically prevent a tyrannical government, the rise of a dictator, those checks have been totally, we don't care. We crossed those a long time ago. And even if you know, we're now our supporters view all the executive power as the way we believe it should be. Maybe that's the way they think it should be. Maybe that's the way they were taught it is. Maybe they just never really understood the civics of the United States. You say that all the time, Curtis. Civics classes.
They don't exist anymore.
They don't exist anymore. So maybe they truly think the president has all the power. So when they're looking at that's the problem. So if they're looking at the Supreme Court or Congress saying, hey, you gotta run that by us. Hey, our job is to interpret the law, report it back to you. Like we're the judges, and Congress has the power to purge. These things are, when we look back, we are going to look back at people like Al Green and say, oh, why didn't people support him sooner? Even forget about if you like President Trump or not. Well, this is not the question. The question is he taking into account the way the founding fathers set up this country to run, to limit the power of the executive? That is the whole goal.
He wants nothing to do with that.
So if you're not voting and you see you got tens of millions of Americans doing a No Kings March last weekend, clearly the people who put you in office would have voted with Al Green, clearly. So your is it constituents?
Yes, there you go.
Your constituents who put you in office are not happy that you 128 Democrats, and we'll try to get a list of some sort for next week. But this is it makes me say, when I saw that, Curtis, the first thing I said to you was the Democrats are bought, and you said, hey, everyone's bought.
They're all bought. Listen, this is one of the few places where you can go in as kind of a normal guy or woman, you know, as a kind of a mid-range earner, and then come out as a millionaire, because you're able to take money from all these PACs and lobbyists and different people and organizations. And yeah, they're getting their palms greased from all different directions.
What does this mean, though? But what does this mean? If you would expect, if we're seeing every other week we're reporting on something that is deeply concerning about a dictatorship and an authoritarian government rising up right in front of our eyes, and to see 128 Democrats not support this to try to stop this early, it's only 6 months in. We're not even 6 months in. He hasn't been in office for 6 months in. I would have much rather not to see him impeached, but to actually see the Democrats unite and say, well, if this does go left, at least we can tell y'all we told y'all this was going to happen, versus y'all had an opportunity to stop this early and y'all voted against it. So I want to know, what does this mean for the Democratic Party? And I know you had mentioned maybe it's just for the war and they don't want to, but on a bigger scale of what we see rising up in this country and what we see, again, has anyone besides me, I've never seen anything that large besides maybe the Black Lives Matter protest. I've never seen millions of people in the street protesting against a president.
Right. So
what does this mean for you guys? What do you guys think about these 128 Democrats voting against this? Why do you think they did it? And you know, as we wrap on this one, Curtis, what do you think this means? Is it smaller than, you know, hey, should we not think about this, or is the Democratic Party just frankly weak at this point?
Well, I think that the latter statement that you made is true in some regard. But in all seriousness, what I think this says, the message that it should give all of us, is that our system is broken. Our political system is broken. Money, ever since the Citizens United Supreme Court decision several years ago allowed big organizations basically to be seen as individuals, and a huge influx of millions and billions of dollars into our political system, to me, it can't help but corrupt the system. And it's been that way for a while now, and we are seeing I think we are seeing the direct result of that, where we basically have an authoritarian government where the rich, the ultra rich, and there's only a few of them, the ultra rich control the resources. And I think we're quickly moving to a place where there is only the ultra rich and the poor, and there really is no in between. So that's I think that really it just says that our systems are broken. And the question becomes, do we have the intellectual capacity and the ability to put emotions aside and actually address that piece? The fact that our system is broken. And as I talk about a lot, I think that our country has intentionally dumbed down our voting base, just so they won't be able to put 2 and 2 together and come out with 4. So I just want to do a quick quote here. Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, maybe some insight as to why the Democrats voted the way they did. He says he's been impeached twice, talking about Trump, and now he's still our president. as well now too. So it's not going anywhere, and I don't think that it's helpful. I think if you throw that term around, that actually diminishes the severity of what impeachment is really reserved for. I hear what he's saying, but to your point earlier, is like, you want to go on record as having been, when history comes back 30, 40, 50 years from now, I think the Republicans should want to be on the record as having opposed this president, as opposed to just kind of rubber stamping whatever he's doing. So anyway.
Yep. Good point. And a couple great comments from our co-host, Spiker Han. Always great to see you. He said the leaders think they can get behind conflict to hide. They can get behind conflicts to hide from the very justice they impose on people. One should expect organized crime during wars. History is riddled with it. Very good point. You know, but it's so much money. And to your point, that's what you just said, Curtis. This is a money game. You know, this is a money play. Big money, congressmen getting in, senators getting in, normal, you know, salaries. And, you know, they leave multimillionaires worth tens of millions of dollars, you know. And that's just what we know on record. Forget all the favors and the bribes and the cash envelopes that they got. And, you know, again, what does that say for us? You know, hey, we're on our way to hell here. Smoke and Fire, welcome, new co-host. Good to see you. What's going on in America right now as far as with these rulings from the Supreme Court is only going to make things right again for Black people, not wrong, and undo the buffer class handouts. Interesting.
Okay. That is interesting.
The rulings from the Supreme Court, you mean Curtis, does it, I don't know if there's the female or male, let us know. Are you saying, are they saying that the rulings, are they on the side of siding with the Supreme Court in the way they're trying to do things right now? Or maybe
it seems that way. It seems as though they are in support of the various Supreme Court rulings at this point. And, you know, that's interesting. We talked about a little about this, I think, when we spoke yesterday, that there are some Blacks and Blacks even abroad who like actually agree with some of the things that this administration has done, and the impact that it'll have, for example, on the African continent and things of that nature. So I guess there are people who see this differently, you know, and I guess that's that's good. You know, people should be able to see things from different points of view, but I'm not sure I buy that, because to me, the Supreme Court now is starting to begin. At one point, they were kind of holding the line a little bit, but it seems like I pulled up my phone this morning and there's a whole bunch of alerts about things the Supreme Court has been doing this week, and there seemed like there's moving closer and closer. At one point, they seemed like they were trying to stay, you know, neutral, at least give the appearance of neutrality. But it seems more and more they're moving into the Trump lane. More and more these things
disappointed. I'm so disappointed because Get Black with me. Great to see you. Welcome to one of our regular co-hosts, Get Black with me. And she said, I'm disappointed to see this comment because I know the Supreme Court is allowing lawlessness to reign, because this was what we were hoping. I love the term you just used, that hold the line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were the ones that's like, it seemed as if, okay, if the Supreme Court is going to continually say, you know, this is breaking the law, you know, you're breaking, you know, we thought maybe this would kind of lead to some type of, it would slow the train up a little bit, like give some, but at this point, like you said, we're seeing a new Supreme Court ruling every week. We're seeing, you know, multiple that you just pulled up, and it's just like, okay, but we're still seeing so much damage being done. And then Get Black With Me said the entire fabric of America is coming apart in real time.
That's what I want to talk about, because you and I, and sometimes before the show, we banter a couple things back and forth, but I want to know, and this is a real question. Even some of our co-hosts will oftentimes say, "Oh, wait to the midterms, or in 4 years he'll be gone." The question I have is, after 2 or 4 years, the point you make is that this is 6 months, not even 6 months in. We have this sort of destruction and damage going on in this country. Fast forward, give him 4 times as much as that, which would go take him to the midterms. Give him 4 times the amount of time that he's already had in office. And what kind of damage can he do in 2 years? What kind of damage can this administration do in 2 years? And then the question has to follow, can this damage be undone? Or and if it can be undone, how long does it take, or would it take, for America to get back to the stability that it had prior to this administration, to get back to its position on the world stage, to get its respect back across the world globally? So the question for me becomes, and this, of course, we could tie it back to our conversation last week, and what we've been talking about is getting out of here. You know, to me, this is just more and more and more evidence, if you will, for reasons why maybe we don't need to be here, or we really ought to be really truly considering whether the United States is our best option at this point.
Well, it's still the temperature. We talk about the temperature a lot here. For those of you who don't know, we continually use this analogy of the temperature being turned up. And in January or November 5th, for many of us, the large majority of Black Americans did not vote for President Trump and this administration. But if you did, that's fine. But we've seen a temperature get turned. We've seen things get warm from day one. It started getting warm because it's like, okay, what is he going to do? Our things before, and we talked about this really back maybe last September. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, the MAGA, it's right after Inauguration Day. So we did a show and we talked about the MAGA watch list. It's on the Hello Black America channel. Feel free to watch it. You are watching This Week in Black America, part of the Hello Black America network. And so we are happy to have you here. If you're spending time with us, we ask you to hit the like button. It does boost the algorithm. If you're enjoying what we're doing, just hit the like button. It brings more people here. But we talked about our watch list was literally the giving more power to the police. And this was again quoted verbatim. I want to give more power. I want to give more. The exact term was, it's not qualified immunity because they already have that. It was a level. I want to be able to give them more freedom to enforce law and order.
Yep.
And that was a concern of ours. And then it was the mass deportation. And our fear was, hiring these private militia, because you need all hands on deck to try to deport 15 million people. So this was going to be new people. And it's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing masked people look like we don't even know if they're federal agents. We have no idea who they are. They could be Proud Boys in, ICE uniforms. But we are seeing so much that we didn't, our worst things confirmed. And it started getting warm, but it keeps getting warmer. And my fear is, how does this look, like you said, a year from now? What's the temperature, guys, a year from now? If we saw how this thing from day one with 70 executive orders or however many he signed, undoing, we see DEI rollbacks, we see, taking out, we see the criminalizing of DEI. And, and we know DEI for a large part is attached to us. Let's just be honest here.
Right.
Like, obviously, we're not the major beneficiaries of it.
Right. That's the point.
So let's be clear there. We are not the major and the largest beneficiaries of DEI, but people, when they hear DEI, Black people come up. So to your point, Curtis, the question is, after 2 years, are the effects of this administration repairable?
That's
Even
the point.
That's the question. Do we think, all right, he got another, multiply what he did now, the first 6 months times 3, he got another, that's just to midterms.
Mm-hmm.
So if he goes the full term of 4 years, God, how do you repair? I think it, and Get Black With Me says, listen, I think he'll be gone in 2026.
That's the point, though.
But he's going to burn down as much as he can.
And so the question becomes, how long, or even are we going to be able to rebuild once he's gone? If best case scenario, if he is gone in 2026, for whatever reason, say there's an influx of Democrats and they do actually succeed this time in impeaching him and following through to conviction. Say that happens, and in 2026 he gets convicted and he's gone. Okay, how long is it till we can rebuild and restore America's prominence on the world stage? And I'm one to think I don't know that we'll ever be able to do it, because it's not like the progress that he's dismantling took years and years and years to set up, right? It's not like these things came to be like in a vacuum and they were just somebody snapped their fingers, and these were hard fought battles over years and sometimes generations to get people to be able to enjoy these freedoms. And then, you know, when one sweep of the pen and a couple of actions, this president can dismantle that. Now, how long is it again, or are we able to again gain some sort of consensus? With the amount of division that we're seeing in our country right now, you have to wonder, is it even going to be possible for us to put this back together again? This is a Humpty Dumpty moment. We've fallen off the wall at this point. The question is will all the horses and all the king's men be able to put Humpty back together again? I'm
poetically said.
That
was strong. Strong analogy. Because, I mean, we're using very real hard terms, you know. Get Black With Me says, you know, we're seeing the unraveling in real time. So, I mean, are we going to sit, like, what does that mean for us? What are the thoughts on our mind, and how, and will the long-term effects of this be so? The question we just posed to you guys, our co-host, is, you know, will the effects of this presidential administration be so consequential that America cannot be repaired? There's a very stark divide between this country, and you know, and
a nation divided against itself cannot. It must fall. It will fall.
So I mean, like, look, y'all. As much as we don't like to stay on these topics, these are not things we can just glance over. We have some lighter things to talk about. We still got a couple things that are heavy as well, but this is look, we know where we'll be. You know, we know what we'll be able to say we were discussing in the history books when that was happening. If America doesn't make it, you know, we'll be able to say, hey, listen, we were having a weekly conversation with people who, you know, had us thinking, had us, like, got us to, you know, to really consider that that there's no guarantee America will be here in 4 years. There's no guarantee America will be here in 10 years. The empire, the country may be here. It could fall into a state of, it can fall into a third world country state where there's bloodshed and the country, people destroy each other. Like it's
absolutely.
And so, I mean, all right, that's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's tough to think about, because listen, we don't know anything else. You and I, and probably most of the people listening with us, we were born right here and we were raised right here. albeit in the land of, you know, the ancestors who kidnapped us and brought us here. But the fact is this is all we know in a lot of cases. Now, fortunately, you know, in this time, a lot of Black folks have the resources to travel the world and see different places and understand that the stuff that they've been feeding us in a lot of cases is not actually what's going on around the world. Again, circling back to the narrative and the marketing, America likes to market itself as the greatest place ever. And I am not debating the theory of America's greatness, but it is just a theory for me because we've never actually played out. We've never actually lived up to the things that we stated in our founding documents. So to me, it's still a theory. And as far as making, you know, when you talk about making America great, unfortunately, in my mind, the idea of America is indeed a great one. The implementation of it has been flawed, and what we're now seeing is a division in America that's so great, I don't know that we can repair it. And that's my worry.
People, look, we spoke about this. Would this engage the voter base, and you know, and even the Black voters? Because, you know, after the election, we chilled out. Everybody saw the memes of, you know, Black people chilling out, you know, Black people at line parties, you know, country doing things that, you know, obviously are trying to spark some type of reaction from us. And we're like unbothered.
Right.
But our hope was that when it comes time to actually get out there and vote, you know, people engage again. And that's really where we lose. We lose in those primaries and in those midterm elections. And President Obama said that, you know, we get geared up for the presidential election and then we don't come out as much as we need to on those midterm elections. So it's going to, I think, I'm hoping, especially with all the people who are speaking on these things, that if the midterm elections reflect what's going on in those No Kings protests, then there should be a huge turnout for people demanding change. Because great comments coming in, the House and Senate is the problem, as Get Black With Me said. These are the people who are complicit. We can't go in there and tie down the president. We can't go in there and say, hey, what are you doing? You know, the House and the Senate can, you know, or they should be.
They should be.
When we start looking at the House and the Senate, you know, the House being the Congress and then the Senate being the upper chamber, these are the lawmakers. These are the people who make the laws. So when you know, right now the Republicans are the majority and they control the House and the Senate. But at the same time, that can be changed with votes next year. So, but we can't do anything until next year. And I think maybe with Al Green, going back to Congressman Al Green, he's like, look, we don't have to next year. We need to do something right now.
Absolutely.
He's actually talking kind of what we're discussing. Like, this is going to be too late next year. There's going to be too much. If we're waiting to the midterm elections in 2026 and we're not going to see those people come in, I don't know, when do they get sworn in January, just like the president?
January of 2027, it would be. That's
so we got a year and a half before we would even see any change in the Senate and the House. And I think what Al Green is saying is, no, that is way too long to have this administration have this type of momentum and this type of power. And we don't. So Anita said the Supreme Court are following. Good to see you, Anita, always. The Supreme Court, the current Supreme Court, are following in the footsteps of Chief Justice Roger B. Taney and William Rehnquist, two renowned white supremacists. Wow. You ever hear
I
that?
know Rehnquist. I know the Rehnquist name. I don't recall the Taney name off the top of my head. But listen, these are just people. You know, the Supreme Court are people, you know, like everybody else, subject to the same biases, obviously. Some of them lie, like, you know, like others. So they're not above it's just they're not above the law, but we've always just depended on these Supreme Court justices taking seriously their requirement to uphold the law.
Mhm.
And what we're starting to see is that, unfortunately, we're seeing some where the personal feelings are starting to infringe on the ability to be objective.
Mm.
And it's always weird to me when they're talking about Supreme Court justices, and then right now in this environment, it's always, well, who assigned them, who made them a Supreme Court. They
Mhm.
always want to tell you what party
Appointed them, yeah.
put them in place.
Yep.
And to me, that should be irrelevant. But unfortunately, we see a time where politics has infringed even on the courts, the judicial portion of our government. And we thought it looked like for a little bit that the courts were kind of holding the line, but now as time is going on, I'm not so sure. Because now, the Supreme Court is the final backstop. And for a while, as we mentioned earlier, the Supreme Court seemed like it was holding sway, but now I'm not so sure.
What does that even look like? You get what I'm saying? So if
Right.
you did get some initial resistance, let's say you came out the gate. So let's be real here, y'all. The train could pick up speed, because let's say people get tired of trying to, you get the initial resistance. But if people are now, if we're seeing that we're breaking down now, then now the train could go. Yeah, they're tired. We basically beat them into submission. We wore them out. We wore them out.
Absolutely.
Now we can really go. Spikerhan said MAGA's biggest fuel to become terrorists was bigotry. After all, haves and have not. Great point. And Get Black With Me said, "Hey, this is white America breaking down as well. This is the."
We lost you, brother. Brother, I don't know what you were getting excited and somebody didn't want to hear. Somebody didn't want to hear what you had to say no more. I don't know. Check your hey, they listening to you, brother. They are listening to you, and they're like, nah, you joker. We ain't letting that get out on the air. Hey, maybe you need a battery change, but we'll see what's going on with that, because I need to hear what you got to say. You don't want to turn me loose on this airwave by myself with no kind of guardrails for another however long it would be. So listen, while my brother gets straightened up there with his audio, in the great state of New York and the city of New York City held its primary election this week. And I bring it up because it may be something that foretells the mindset of the voters at this point. So New York is not like most, like a lot of places. New York is a very diverse city, and they had the former governor Cuomo, who was running for mayor, and the establishment, Bill Clinton and the Democratic establishment, through their support behind Cuomo and their money behind Cuomo in huge amounts. And a lot of people thought that was going to be the deciding factor. But recently they had their mayoral primary, and they have this ranked voting. I don't know if I'm qualified to explain what the ranked voting is all about these days, but they do have this ranked voting going on. And lo and behold, a 33-year-old New York assemblyman, Zohran Mamdani, 33 years old, came out as the winner in the Democratic primary. And he's a very progressive type of individual. We have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's the probably the main person, she and Bernie Sanders right now, who are leading like the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And they both got behind this Mamdani person, who's assemblyman from New York. But the rest of the establishment, the established Democratic Party, was backing Cuomo. So, you know, there's the fact that he won was a great thing. You back, brother?
I'm back.
Yes, you are back.
All right.
Amen. And hallelujah. Hey, don't say none of that controversial stuff no more.
What you say?
Don't say none of that controversial stuff no more.
No, we didn't get just new text and
You might want to drop your level a little bit. Seems like we're getting a little something going on there.
sorry guys, sorry.
Well, listen, this is a technical world. We got technical issues
understand.
sometimes.
We understand.
And you and I have already said we are not the technical people.
No, we are not. But hold on, let's go. How's the left?
So while you're straightening it out,
Sorry, I can't. How's it sound? How's it sound?
as long as we can hear you, I can deal with whatever that buzz is. It's fine. We'll persevere.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So, yeah.
I don't know if the audience is hearing you.
I heard everything you were saying, and yes, if you guys hear a buzzing coming from my end, please let me know, and I'll try to restart this. And but yeah, it's a new microphone, and we might listen. I might end this show with a review on it. Let y'all know what it is. But go ahead, continue. I heard you speaking about this new potential mayoral candidate. But yeah, continue. This is big.
Yeah. So Mamdani, this was just a primary. So in November, they will have the official mayoral race. Now, Cuomo is not supposedly out of it because he could choose to run as an independent in the November election, as current mayor Eric Adams is doing. So Mayor Adams chose not to seek the Democratic nomination, but would run as a independent for himself in the general election. So Curtis Sliwa, who's a Republican, is also going to be running in the November general election. If that name sounds familiar, he was part of the what were they? The Angels, some kind of. They wore the red berets back in the 80s. Used to walk around in the subways, so that's where Curtis Sliwa made his name. I forgot the name of the group that they represented, but so there are other people that will be in the general election that comes up in November, but this is I guess the people are looking to see what this is saying about the electorate's appetite for progressive candidates moving forward. And again, as I stated at the beginning, New York is a little different. So I don't know if this is going to carry over for Midwest America, but in New York City, clearly there's an appetite for a progressive candidate who wants to do more for the people rather than the ultra wealthy and the elite. So we'll see how that plays out in the when the general election comes up in November. Now, moving on, I know we got a few more things we need to get to today, and we want to try and
people are commenting about this Cuomo and just how because he didn't, because he conceded, but then he didn't remove his name from the ballot or something like that. He had until I believe yesterday to remove his name where he wasn't going to run, and he didn't. He basically said that he wanted to see how things were going to play out because there was a lot of business owners. I'm not going to say a lot because I don't want to believe media, but basically there was an uprising of people against this guy.
against Cuomo, you mean?
No, against Zohran. Against
Okay.
the gentleman who won and then here was my question. How do if this gentleman's running as a Democrat, obviously he's very left, If you're hanging out with AOC and you're hanging out with Bernie Sanders, you definitely, and I think and he specifically said, I think the term he uses, he's a democratic socialist.
Socialist, right?
Socialist. So when the business owners, there was a specific business owner that said, you know, all my friends called me who own businesses and said this is going to be horrible, and we're basically preparing for what to do. You got people in Texas. I think who's the congressman or the senator in Texas? Maybe Texas. I don't know. But tweeted, "Hey, everybody, come to Texas because I know y'all thinking about leaving." But does this prove that the people are still? Is this a little taste of what the primary could look like next year? Is this energy that we saw in New York to get this guy who really, in previous years, would not have been able to garner the support that he got a couple of days ago? But is this proof that the people forget what we're hearing, forget what we saw with our own eyes last weekend with the No Kings protesters? The people are like, give us an opportunity to change something, we're going to come out and change it. Is this a little sign that, hey, the people are about that action, and the people are, and all of these senators and congressmen who are in office should be worried that they're going to be replaced, like, if they don't do something.
And they should be. That's the way that our system is designed to work. If you're not doing the job in 4 or 6 years, in the case of a senator, you should be voted out if you're not doing the job. The problem is that, and circling back to what I was talking about earlier, is the fact that money plays such an integral part in the way politics is done these days, that the people who are incumbents, they already had the inside track on fundraising, of getting money from PACs and things like that. So it makes it very difficult for an upstart person who doesn't have broad-based financial support, doesn't have the inside track as far as getting the inside, that dark money, as they call it. If they don't have that inside track, it's almost a done deal that they're going to lose the way the system is set up. Because if you're seeing television commercials every two minutes, every commercial break, you're seeing 4 or 5 commercials about a particular candidate, that gets into your subconscious over time. And that's the way these campaigns are run. Or if every time you go to the mailbox, there's some sort of flyer in there for a particular candidate, over time that kind of seeps in, or it can seep in if you're not intentional. So as to your question as to whether how this is going to play out in November nationally, that remains to be seen. My only caution is, of course, is the caveat that New York City is different. Now, you might see it play out in places like California and New York that are really kind of diverse electorates. You may not see it in places like Kentucky or Georgia. Well, Georgia maybe a little bit. We'll see. They've been Georgia's been kind of fighting for its identity these days. So we'll see. We'll see what the appetite of the voter is.
So now let's what did the Republicans do? When they find out that this guy wins the mayor.
So
crazy.
This is the craziest thing I saw. Was that so? We were just talking about the mayoral winner in New York, Mamdani. And so the Republicans, and I don't know, I didn't see any names associated with it, just kind of the blanket Republicans moniker. Republicans are basically saying, yeah, why don't you strip this guy of his citizenship and deport him? Now, he's here legally. There's no allegation of any there's no allegation of him being here improperly or not being a citizen or being undocumented in any way. It's just because of the way his name sounds, probably. That okay, well, he won for mayor race. Why don't we deport this guy? Strip him of his citizenship and deport him. And what I think the scary thing is that people who even put this sort of thing out there, what prohibits you from being next? Because you see yourself as one of the good guys or one of the people that should be here. Yet, I don't know, there was a poem, it wasn't me, they came for them, but it wasn't me. And, you didn't do anything until it actually came to your doorstep. And the people, I think that going back to our civics conversation, Americans have to understand this is a slippery slope. And if you can deport anybody who is here legally, then everybody is at risk. Because what happens when they decide that you are no longer worthy of citizenship?
You should no longer be a citizen.
Right. And who has the right to decide who is worthy of citizenship? And who should stay and who should go? So this is a very slippery slope. It's if you don't realize how dangerous this is, you're probably not very well informed, frankly, because you can't look at this and not be frightened by it.
The New York Young Republican Club, so that's who called on the, I don't know how many people it could be 5 people.
Isn't the New York Republican Club the group that backed Santos? He was a Republican. A Republican that they got out of Congress because he lied about his background. So, but anyway, I digress.
And this says the Young Republican Club. So, if that has anything to do with age and generation, I think see that the young. But if you're joining something called the Republican Club, you're probably not moderate. But anyway, they called on the federal government to strip Zohran Mamdani of his citizenship and deport. So again,
anybody we don't like.
We just wanted to let y'all know that's what a group of people said in a state where the mayor, or the city, where a mayoral candidate that they didn't like won the primary. Hey, let's support the guy. So just what's out here.
That's the world we're living in these days.
You should know. Rupert Murdoch, founder of Fox News, came here illegally, just like 47 too wide.
Yeah, starting to see more social media posts about, of course, Melania coming here under the genius IQ. But she came here, and I've seen it broken down a couple times this week. Melania came here, and she came here on a visa that didn't allow her to work, and she illegally took like 10 modeling gigs while she was here. And then somehow that being a model led her to end up being made a citizen as a under the genius statute. Now, I don't know where her genius lies, and I don't want to speculate, but yeah.
Hold on, we got some breaking news.
What's that? What do we got?
It came actually from Anita. I started the comment. The Supreme Court just ruled on birthright citizenship.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. That was one of the flood of things that came in this morning. And I hadn't read up on it this morning as deeply as I maybe could have.
It says here that this is just updated 11 minutes ago. It says the Supreme Court limits nationwide injunctions and birthright citizenship order.
Right.
I'm just going to share this article. It says the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision along ideological lines on Friday sided with the Trump administration's request. Right? It starts out like that. We can kind of see where this is going. To limit universal injunctions issued by federal courts. The opinion in the birthright citizenship case was highly anticipated. At issue was how the lower court should handle President Trump's executive order, which
U.S. illegally or on temporary visa are not entitled to automatic citizenship. This is millions upon millions of people.
Listen, yeah, this is big deal. Big deal.
So does that mean everybody who thought they were safe from the birthright citizenship up until now is no longer safe right now? The Supreme Court has sided with President. Is that, or is there something more to it than that?
I haven't read it thoroughly, so I don't want to go too far down that path without, I don't want to give misinformation. But my understanding from just a cursory review of it is basically that it kind of sided with him a little bit, but I'm not led to believe that it gave him like carte blanche that birthright citizenship is over yet. But I think it did kind of reinforce that they may be leaning towards him in that regard. But I don't want to give bad information out. That's breaking news. So this is just coming out this morning. And we'll get more into it.
Right, then he said it still has to go to the court first. Okay. Well, look, I when I saw the comment, because right before the show, Curtis and I was just, we were talking, and like you said, Curtis, there was tons of stuff coming from the Supreme Court. And when she mentioned it, I just said, well, okay, let's look closer into this. But look, at the end of the day, okay, it says it's not automatic. Okay. All right.
Right.
Well,
right.
But here's the thing. Y'all know how I go. The direction it looks like it's going doesn't look like it's going to work out. So let me just, without having all the information, we'll follow up on this. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about on this particular topic next week. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look like it's going to work out in the favor of those who are trying to have these birthright citizenship protections.
Well, you just got to keep the faith. And as evidence of that, the very first person that we saw as a victim of the Trump crackdown on free speech and across the college campuses and things, Mahmoud Khalil, you may recall, was the young man from Columbia University. He was a graduate student at Columbia who was arrested earlier this year, basically for protesting against a pro-Palestinian protest last year when all those campuses were erupting with pro-Palestinian protests. So when this administration came in, even though this person is here legally, there's no allegation of them being here illegally or having done anything improper other than protesting against the state of Israel and pro-Palestinian protests. So this person is just freed after 104 days, over 3 months. He was imprisoned, detained in a Louisiana facility, basically just for protesting. And here we have it now. He finally gets released. So I guess the point of this is, that you got to stick with it. He was the very first one that got arrested, and now 104 days later, he finally gets out. So his ability to just persist through that is important, and to keep himself mentally sound in the meantime, because just having faith that something's going to be resolved. He had right on his side. Unfortunately, that alone doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. But your thoughts? I mean, it's great to see that Mahmoud Khalil has been released. I guess that does reinforce some confidence in the court system that eventually they may get it right over time. But yeah, he's a free man now.
What do they call it? Stick-to-itiveness?
Stick-to-itiveness. There you go. That's a $3 word.
It's just, it's just that, it's just for him. I'm happy to see a positive outcome. But again, this is something freedom These were our freedoms. You know, the right to protest against. I mean, you're not even protesting against your own government. You're protesting against, you know, it being complicit in certain things. It's not like you're saying death to your president or something like that. Like this is not. This is just like, hey, we don't support what you're doing over in Gaza. We don't support what you're doing in Ukraine. So if you can get up, if you can get, I'm sure there's that. We see Iranian protests all around the country. People protesting with Iranian flags. We're gonna be detained for protesting, or which was in our constitutional right.
The very first right, the very, very first amendment to the Constitution gave us the right to protest and free speech against the. Now, I think a lot of people misunderstand what that free speech clause is all about. It doesn't give you the right to say just whatever you want. Has been said. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. But what that does give you the right is to speak out against the tyranny of our government without fear of reprisal. And what we are seeing is just talking about this Khalil's case is that just speaking out has become a violation and can get you detained if the government decides that they don't like what you're saying, which should send shivers down the spine of every American. Because if you can't say what you want in dissent of what the government is saying, then it is problematic. We are all at risk. Every one of us is at risk if we cannot say what we believe in opposition to the government and them not be able to take some sort of reprisal and imprison us just for saying what we think. And that is what exactly happened here. And I think people are probably saying, well, he wasn't a citizen. This administration has not shown any distinction between citizen, non-citizen, here legally, non-legally. It doesn't matter. I know what they said, and I know what they put out there, but the fruit has not shown that to be true. So you always can tell a tree by the fruit it bears, and this tree is bearing a fruit that is against our Constitution.
There's no other way to say it. You keep using those two words, slippery slope. This a slippery slope because you can see that what's to stop it from moving to any criticism of the administration is now. Okay, if we're now limiting the freedom of speech, limiting what we say that means, then okay, well you can't protest and be against this country. You can't protest on behalf of this country that we label as an enemy. And if you do that, you're an enemy. We can arrest you for it. We can detain you for that. Okay. Now, thank God again that Mahmoud Khalil is home free after a little over 104 days.
Mm-hmm.
But if this continues, President Trump has already, let's be clear here, this is on record. This is not our opinion here. He has already written and taken action against journalists, limited journalist access to certain places because he didn't like their opinion. He doesn't like their write-up.
Doesn't like the questions.
He doesn't like their questions. He doesn't like their article, whatever. But regardless, that is freedom of press. That's a right. You can't stop under our Constitution. You can't stop that. But he's saying, I'm going to take action to stop it. So as it moves, the slippery slope is that goalpost just keeps moving a little bit. It just keeps moving a little bit. The next thing you know, you're over here on the extreme side where a show like us or any media online is now, hey, if you hear any criticism about President Trump, that's a strike against those people. So this is where those freedom of speech, freedom of press violations, we got to keep a very, very close eye on where these cases start and where they end. So that's why this is a victory to see this brother coming home. But we followed the Associated Press. They were banned from the Pentagon, or banned from the White House.
Right.
We don't want Associated Press here. So these things, they have since let them back in, but then there was still some up and down on, it's still up and down. So
Well, the court said they had to go. They had to let them back in, but as you mentioned, they may or may not do what the courts say, depending on what day of the week it is.
Right. We see Congress people knocking on doors. Hey, I'm a congressman. You have to let me in here. Actually, we don't. We actually don't.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Like, this is a federal building. We see Congress people and senators that they are not letting inside federal buildings. So again, this is the stuff, again, not to sow fear, to be prepared. Because we're going to watch this whole thing. And as this week, it's going to come a time where this is either going to cool off and start cooling off, and we'll start talking about it. Hey, guys, it's cooling off. Not looking like it was looking 3 months ago. Or we'll all be talking amongst ourselves and saying the temperature is, this water's almost boiling now, y'all. And, so that's why we try to follow these things as they happen and then circle back around with the result. Even if it was a case that, started 6 months ago. So I think this is a victory, though. That's all I got. I think, this is a sign. Definitely a move in the right direction. You got anything else on it?
Well, listen, I believe that the administration said they were gonna appeal that as well. So they're not giving up. They it don't matter. I think that they just going. They are going until the wheels fall off. But anyway, so just want to get into a little bit. We've been talking and hearing a little bit about the Supreme Court, but there was one specific story that caught my eye because now this time of year, just for you that don't know, the Supreme Court session's coming to an end. So it's not unusual that we would have this flurry of Supreme Court rulings coming at this time of year. So that piece in and of itself is not unusual. If you woke up like I did this morning, seeing a bunch of these Supreme Court decisions, it's just them basically trying to make sure they close out all the Supreme Court's business that's on their docket before they break for the summer or whenever that actually comes into play. But there was a young man who in Louisiana, my home state, where he's in prison. And there's a law in the state of Louisiana. Did you get the story, brother? I'm sorry, I should have given you the story number here. 6 is what we're looking at here. So there's a gentleman who was in prison in Louisiana, and there was apparently a law on the books already that said that he basically allowed people who, for religious purposes, had locks or their hair in a certain way. So the prison guards in this particular case, they held him down, handcuffed him down, and shaved his locks. He's a Rastafarian. He went and did all his paperwork to legally claim that status, that religious status, and yet the guards just held him down and shaved off his locks, contrary to their own law in the state of Louisiana, in fact. So the guy's name is Damon Lander. He's a devout Rastafarian, and he claimed that officials at the Raymond Laborde Correction Center violated his Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act when they cut off his dreadlocks. And now the thing is that he's suing, and he's still in prison. He's suing, but the question, I guess, becomes whether or not he can get any monetary recovery because he's a prisoner. So, you know, so I guess they're trying to determine whether or not he can even have status to sue and get some sort of monetary restoration or, you know, some sort of payback, if you will, for them doing this for him. And I thought it was interesting that the Supreme Court now has to weigh whether or not Landon and other people who sue under this religious statute can actually win monetary damages. But the thought that came to me is, isn't it ironic that the state can profit from these men being in prison? They can lease them out. They can have them work for for-profit companies. They can make money off of their labor. But when something is done to them, they have to say, well, I don't know if you were able to get compensation back for that. And that really struck me, is like, you can make money off of my back and off my labor and off of my incarceration, yet while I'm incarcerated, if you do something to me that is against the law, I can't make any money off of that. I can't have a nest egg saved up for me or get this money on my books while I'm locked up. I don't know.
Sounds like the closest thing to slavery I could hear.
Well, that's exactly what it was. It's actually the only, when people say that slavery was put away, that we don't know, you know, that we no longer have slavery, that's not true. Because the only exception is if you are incarcerated. So slavery was never really truly outlawed. And I see Get Black with Me talking about the 13th Amendment. Slavery was never outlawed because there was always the exception in that 13th Amendment that said if you were in prison, basically you can still be enslaved. And that's what we're seeing play out. And thus we see the fact that the government changes laws. We saw this in the aftermath of the Emancipation Proclamation. All these laws were put into place to criminalize black men. If you had more than 2 or 3 men standing in a place, you were all loitering, they'd get taken to jail. If you didn't have a job, even though there weren't jobs available, you could be incarcerated. And then that was the workaround for slavery. So even though we can't enslave all of y'all, if we can get enough of y'all criminalized, that we can continue to make money off of your backs. And that's what we're seeing about this prison industrial system here in America. That's what the whole thing is where 60-70% of all those people incarcerated are brown and black men. And yet they don't make up anywhere near that portion of the population. So it's obvious to me, if not to everyone else, that this is just kind of an end around the slavery provision written into the Constitution.
I appreciate you. We appreciate you mentioning the 13th Amendment.
Brother, you're fading out. It's really difficult to hear you at this point. For me, I don't know if everybody else is having that difficult.
How about now?
That's much better. If you can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate you giving us the mentioning the 13th Amendment. Because that just gave me an understanding of it that I didn't have. Like, it really, like, I had no idea that because, and mind you, I always basically, when it comes to some of the structures and the I guess the what is it called? The way the country is made up. I always tell you, Curtis, you helped me understand so many things that I didn't know. So this says that slavery is still around, except under punishment of a crime. Like I mean, it's abolished except as punishment for a crime.
That is it.
That's probably the first time I ever read that. Like, and I'm just keeping it a buck. Like that you hear that. And you hear, hey, well, prison is the new slavery. I've been
Right.
hearing this for years. I've said that. Like, oh man, y'all trying to get my brothers jammed up in the teens where, okay, you go from and I see a lot of dudes because I used to sell Mercedes and they, one of the dudes I used to do business with a lot, Betty Rock. And I was throwing Betty when he was 2016 Betty, on top of the world, 4 Billboard 100 songs, and like millions and millions of dollars. He invited me to a couple shows. Great guy, very humble guy. And he's in jail now for trafficking, drugs. And I'm like, yo, you go from a king to a slave. Whenever I see any of these rappers, any of these rich people go, you're on top of the world. Diddy, from a king to a slave. Because but to know that it's actually written into the Constitution that if you get locked up, we punish you for a crime, yes, you are still a slave. So that even makes sense now when you consider the point you brought up about this gentleman, going back to the main topic of this article, the gentleman here, Damon Landor, who is in prison, about to have this case, and is looking for damages. Forget the amount, because that's going to be up to his lawyer to try to prove an amount of damages.
Mhm.
But the fact is, will he get them? Will they pay
Right.
somebody that they view as a legal slave? Will they pay them any money, even though they're making tons of money for them?
Yeah. So that's the point. Yeah. Yeah. They're still slaves. They are still slaves, apparently. And
So that was a big wake up. I appreciate that. Like I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know it all. I mean, that was a big eye opener. For those who may be in my shoes who just really didn't have a clear understanding of what that 13th Amendment is, that just like what we just brought into the chat, because now it connects it for me. Now when we have that conversation, it makes sense if it's written into the Constitution that we can enslave you if you commit a crime. Now it's written incentive for us to try to
absolutely
put crimes on you.
when you
So
talk
that
about
we-
motive, that's it. That's a motivation for you.
Huge motive. Huge motive.
So
Wow. Okay,
Supreme-
thanks, guys. Thanks. That's why I love this show. This is why I love one of the reasons I love This Week in Black America is because I get to learn so much. Just in terms of these topics. So yeah, we'll certainly follow this man. Two things. One, if the Supreme Court deems he is due damages for having his religious rights violated, and if so, how much? And will they pay out? So yeah, we'll certainly follow this.
So just before we finish up on the Supreme Court, just a couple things. Supreme Court also granted emergency relief to enforce the third country deportation. So what we were seeing is people being deported to countries that were not their own. So apparently the Supreme Court said, that's not so bad. You can do that. So yeah. So more of the Supreme Court shenanigans going on at this point. And you want to pay attention to that because
ruled that it's okay to hold people in foreign detention camps.
yeah. Basically, they're saying they could do that.
Good job.
And I'm going to go into that a little bit more. Now, I just want to clear something up. You guys here, we talked about this fact, the birthright citizenship thing, and understand what that is. That means that if your parents are undocumented when you come here, it's always been held that if undocumented people, I don't know, maybe they're on a flight going through the U.S. And well, that probably wouldn't happen because you wouldn't have a pregnant woman flying that close to her delivery time. But yeah, you never know. Maybe she delivers early. So she's flying on a plane, comes to America, is here on a vacation, and has the baby while they're here. Legally, it's always been upheld that person, because they were born on American soil, is an American citizen. And that is what this president is fighting against. Someone who has a baby here who is not a citizen or not documented. What I want you to give thought to, and I know the president in the past has is on the record as having said that this is only there for black folks. Just think about this. Black people came here, they were undocumented because they were stolen. They didn't immigrate here. So who's to stop this administration from saying, well, wait a second, y'all weren't documented, so your birthright citizenship here is in question? What's to stop them from saying that because I can't produce a birth certificate for my grandparents 7 generations ago, who were stolen from a land across the water there, brought here with no papers. So I was born on these shores, or my ancestors were born on these shores, and as such have been granted American citizenship because of this birthright statute in the Constitution. What's to stop this administration from saying, well, wait a second, y'all aren't documented, y'all don't have birthright citizenship? And again, I know he said that it's basically he's on record as saying that this applies only to blacks, to foundational blacks, if you will, who were brought here. But I'm just going to say this. He has, on occasion, said things and then gone in the opposite direction. So you ought to be aware. Stay woke. Stay woke. Understand what's happening around you, folks.
So we have all of these people who would come here who weren't full citizens, and they would come and they would have children here, and under the birthright citizenship, the children became citizens. Correct. So now those people are on the chopping block first. And we reported on this maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Maybe, I think when we first, this was right after President Trump was inaugurated when he started to challenge birthright citizenship. And we played a clip of him specifically saying that birthright citizenship was only for the slaves, only for the descendants of the slaves. That was it. So we made it clear that, again, going back to the poem, it was them. Yeah, we don't know the poem, but it wasn't me. They didn't come after me. They didn't come after me, and then all of a sudden they were after me. This continues to ring so true, because if we see that the people who really, for generations thought they were safe under birthright citizenship, now that if this continues to go the way it looks like it's going, that's going to be off the table. So all of those people from all of these minority groups that had children here, wait a minute. Wait, but are there illegal people from Europe here? It's like there's zero. There can't be anybody legal for any white illegals here. But I mean, in any case, all of these people would be that day a target of ICE. But like you said, Curtis, if they do decide that they really want to run this thing as deep and as extreme as they can run it, we absolutely are. What would we be considered? What type of citizens would we be considered? We would all be here technically legal only under birthright citizenship. We never came here and applied for papers. This isn't our homeland. We didn't come and we didn't apply for citizenship here. We were granted citizenship here.
Absolutely. And that's the problem.
Bringing up all this scary stuff this show.
Listen,
that's serious.
I don't say, when I say stay woke, I'm not just saying that because it's the opposite of what the administration is saying right now. You have to understand what's going on around you. And that's the beauty of what This Week in Black America is. We're trying to explain to you what's going on around you and then understand how that could potentially impact you. Because we're in unprecedented times here. We're seeing things that we've never seen, never thought we'd see. And yet, here we are. So if you didn't think it could happen, you need to think again. And now, and again, circling back full circle to what we were talking about earlier, if you had never thought about a reason to leave this country or to get out from under the yoke of oppression that is here in America, now is the time. Now is the time to start considering it if you haven't already.
Get like Whitney just wrote in the chat. I think they would have to pass a constitutional amendment. The Constitution refers to any person. He says, pull the Constitution back up. It says any person born in the U.S. is a citizen.
That and that's always been interpreted as like even the scenario that we talked about, somebody who's here on vacation or somebody flying through, or because it does say any person. But this administration is basically saying that, yeah, but it didn't mean that. And, I know what it says. I know it says any person, but it didn't mean that just anybody who could come and have a baby on American shores is a citizen. That's their argument. That is the basis of their argument.
Now, what you're just doing there is interpreting the law, which, like you said, it's our Supreme Court job to interpret that law. So if we have a Supreme Court that we see holding the line, then we don't have to be worried about what Curtis just brought up. But if we just laid out you just laid out very well over the last hour and a couple minutes that we see the breakdown in the Supreme Court. So if they decide that, you know what, that is not under our eyes, that's not what that law means, what do? Nothing. We got nothing to do. Because these are the people we elected, and these are the people who were appointed to protect our rights. And if the people who are appointed and elected are now sided with an administration that is doing things we've never seen and decide, you know what, we want a large percentage of people out of this country, and they are for that, then what we're going to see is many things that pass showing they are for that, and that they're all in bed together. That's why, again, the 128 Democratic votes that we talked about an hour ago to not impeach President Trump is important. It looks like y'all are in bed together. At first, when this thing started, it started looking like, okay, this is resistance. We hate this guy. Hey, listen, I've been asking. I said to my dad last week, I said, Kamala Harris, she did pretty good. She lost the 7 swing states. If we think that the election wasn't rigged, that's fine. But she if people can say 7-8 months ago, they're playing clips of things you said that would happen and they're happening. And
does that make her a prophetess?
Come on. Where is you? Are you going to at least give a hint? Kamala Harris 2028? Now, I mean, that's a big deal about who you want to choose. But at the end of the day, if the woman was packing rallies and people could say, you know what? Hey, if I had it to do over again, I think I probably would have voted for that Kamala Harris. So if where is so I'm looking for all the signals, any signals that will show the Democratic Party is engaged, like, yo, we're going to put up this fight politically. And what we're seeing is, no, we're siding with these guys. Cory Booker, if you guys follow Senator Cory Booker, he's probably the most outspoken senator, probably has the most public support. He's getting killed in his comments for people he voted for, that people in his time, hey, why'd you vote to approve that person? Why'd you vote to approve? So we are seeing signs, y'all, that the people who we elected, that we thought, oh, well, we know they putting up a fight against them there. They fighting every day. They might not be fighting as hard as we think they fight.
Look them up. They're taking money. And I love, I'm okay with Cory Booker. I have no problem with him. He's a senator from my state. I've met him before. I have no problem with him, other than the fact, though, he can't deny, you got to be accountable, he's taking money as well. So, when somebody's paying your bills, you have to be really, you have to wonder where their allegiances lie. And when people are taking money, and that's really, for me, why until we take money out of the politics, it's always going to be corrupt. It's always going to be corrupt because whoever's got the biggest pockets ultimately can influence policy and politics with a payoff, you know. And in a capitalistic society, everybody's trying to get that money. Everybody want the bag, right? So anyway, if you don't know, up in New York State, just real quick, number 7 here, there was a black man found in a park, hanging in a park. Officials said that they came to the conclusion that it was a suicide. And the question I had is about this. As we look through the story that I see you have displayed there, there are questions about it. Now, listen, sometimes people hang themselves, but we cannot ignore the history in this country of a black person hanging themselves from a tree. I don't know how many maybe black people are hanging themselves, maybe in prisons, maybe in their homes. I don't know how many black people are going out to a tree, putting up a rope and stringing themselves actually up to a tree. Just understanding the history in this country, I'm not buying it. I'll just go on the record and say I'm not buying it. So this person in Albany, New York, was found, and this is what I found telling. Let me see if I can find the exact quote here. The police said, at this time, based on upon preliminary investigation, the circumstances appear to be consistent with suicide, and no evidence to suggest that the incident is criminal in nature, Albany police said in a statement. The question I have is this. There is no evidence to suggest that this incident is criminal in nature. Isn't suicide a crime? If suicide is a crime, why isn't it being investigated as a crime? He said there's no criminal. So suicide is a crime. You have to investigate that as the police in that area. They're saying, we're not even investigating because it looks like a suicide. Suicide is a crime. You can't have it both ways, can you? You can't say that it's a suicide and then say, which is a crime, and then say that, well, because it's a suicide, we're not going to investigate it. So something is a little, I don't know. Something ain't right in the kitchen, as the old folks used to say. So, we don't have any inside scoop here. We don't have any independent detailing or reporting that says that we know for sure that this person was killed at the hands of another. But we also don't have anything that says that we know for sure that this person died by their own hand either. So just another stay woke situation, folks. Understand what's happening around you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. So when we look at this, we get a couple cases like this every so often. Even going back to the two young men in Georgia. And we need to check back in on that. And the reason we don't check back in on it because we know it would check back in on us if it was a good outcome. Absolutely, we would know. We would have heard something. We would know. We would have heard something. We remember the two young men who were killed in Georgia. In questionable areas that us as Black Americans know. Hello, Black America. We understand. These are areas that we wouldn't be just getting out our car, driving through, and all of a sudden. So these things are happening a little more regularly now, or at least it's happening. It's popping up on our radar. And the question is, what are the outcomes? Because as you said, Curtis, if we just use it's a suicide as a reason to sweep it under the rug, use no resources to do an investigation, then it does become swept under the rug for 6 months, and then someone gets away with it. Well, maybe it wasn't. But the investigation would show that it wasn't. The follow-up investigation would show that it wasn't, or it was.
Right.
And it just looks like what we have seen a little too often, which is this is an easy way to get out. And, you know, maybe you got the family, hey,
Right.
demanding do more, and then it just becomes a fight against that state or against that city, and it's just like we've seen it before.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's just like, why wouldn't you, again, to the family of Earl Smith, all you can do is raise hell, you know? All you can do is raise hell. Like, literally, you know, stay on them, you know, get in touch with anybody. That's why that's why we make it our point to try to not miss stuff like this, because even as we grow our audience, we will be all over social media in the next 2 weeks. So that is a big part of why we made sure that we wanted to you know, have everything set up. But you'll see the Hello Black America or This Week in Black America clip hitting social media in the next week to 2 weeks. So we'll be on 4 platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Very hard. And so, you know, we any awareness that we can bring, we're gonna bring. But if God forbid, if this is my family member and they're talking about all I'm doing all day, they're going to be tired of seeing me, and I'm gonna make sure I won't sleep properly until there is an investigation into this gentleman's death. Because, like I said, Curtis, and we've seen it, this happens far too often. And if you don't have the family and the friends leaning on the law enforcement and justice system, this man will be forgotten about. And if he was actually murdered, that killer will be free. This is not uncommon. Let's not act like it is.
Absolutely. And so apparently his family, someone identified as his niece, has been posting stuff on TikTok and other places, just saying that clearly they don't believe that the narrative that the police are putting forth, that their relative unalived himself, as they are saying these days. We're right at our time limit today. We've gone through quite a bit of stuff that we'd want to talk about. A couple real quick hitters. We don't even have to discuss. You may know Karmelo Anthony, the young man, I believe in Georgia, high school student who had been charged with stabbing another high school student. The reports from the family basically were that he was defending himself. And we've seen some parallels to some other stories similar to this, where the participants maybe had a different melanation, didn't have the same kind of issue. So he's been officially indicted. Obviously, he's still got to go to trial, and we're going to keep an eye on what's going on with Karmelo Anthony and his murder trial that'll certainly be coming up shortly. Real quickly again, mental health issues are real in our community. And the reason I said that is the story number 10 here. Just want to know where I'm going there, Deshaun. The mother accused of murdering her own child. Now, if you ever see a headline that starts with the mother killing her own child, you've got to know that there's probably some mental health issues there, because that's just contrary to all maternal instinct, is obviously to and this is a 6-year-old baby, and you know, somebody in the family interceded and tried to keep her from harming the 6-year-old any further, and she was basically yelling, let me finish him. So that to me is just sad that mental health issues can get to this point. I'm sorry that no one in the family or close by was able to recognize the obvious trauma that this woman must have been going through to really to hit her baby or 6-year-old with a hammer multiple times, ultimately resulting in his death. So keep an eye on your loved ones. Understand that mental health is real.
It's in front of the brother. It says the brother who witnessed him
Right.
while
Right.
restraining his mother.
So he stopped his mother from, at least initially, but when they took the baby and tried to get help, it was too late. It was too late. So love on the people that are in your life. Make them know that you love them, because you never know. In the world we're living in, there's just all types of craziness.
And you see, push people to get help. You know what I mean? Like, don't. We see certain red flags. You know, get in touch with people. I know sometimes we don't want to report our family and our friends, but listen, it is real. We never know how bad people are struggling, and we never know when they're at the point of unraveling. And so if you see something, call the authorities. You know, I mean, I'm sure some people would rather have seen. I mean, it's like, hey, yeah, the kids end up in the foster care system. Who knows what the outcome is going to be? But it's better than this child not being here. So,
you know what's sad is you just mentioned reach out to the authorities. We're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place a lot of times, because we've seen so many times where we call the authorities for help, and a lot of times it ends up making it worse, and somebody else ends up in some sort of situation where they're either injured or hurt or killed by law enforcement. So I understand that we have some issues that we got to work through there with regard to the system.
And we've seen, Curtis, lately, I mean, come on, we've seen people with mental health issues have the authorities too.
Absolutely.
It should be restraint, but all right.
I hate ending the show on that kind of note, but listen, we wanted to get to these things, and unfortunately, there are things going on in our world we just need to be aware of, even if they are not, they're troubling. We can't hide our head in the sand any longer, because if you're not aware of what's going on around you, something may take you by surprise. I got a new shirt. I'm gonna get it out one of these days. Stay ready. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So if you know what's going on around you, that puts you in a better position to react and to act proactively, is probably a better way to put that, because you understand what's happening around you. Brother Deshaun, I know we're gone a little bit over today, but we had some technical stuff at the beginning, and had to get through that. Appreciate your patience with us as we're going through some little growing pains sometimes, but we appreciate those of you who are sticking in with us on This Week in Black America. Any final thoughts that you have, Brother Deshaun, for our listeners this week?
Well, when you just brought up the child, it reminded me, even though we didn't write it down, we can end on a great note. Tamir Rice would have turned 23 this week. For those of you who don't know, Tamir Rice was a young man. He was 12 years old when he was playing with a toy gun in the park, and within, what was it, 35 seconds?
Exactly. As soon as he pulled up.
As soon as the cop pulled up, he killed him. He shot Tamir Rice and killed this 12-year-old boy playing with his toy gun in the park. So his mother had Samaria Rice. She has been working on the Tamir Rice Foundation, and she's been trying to build a youth center. Now, she, for those of you who are not aware of this young lady, her name is, I just said earlier I was going to try it. Keandria. She's the same one who hacked not hacked in. She read the code of the white woman. Who
Gotcha.
called
Okay.
the young black girl the N-word, and then she raised the $700,000. And this young lady, what she did was, just to give you some context on DeAndrea, is she read into the code to see who was the funding source, and she really launched a nationwide protest to get us to stop using them and to hold them accountable. It's very intelligent and this genius level young lady, but her activism didn't start there. She's been an activist. So she tweets out, or she reposts on her Instagram. DeAndrea has about got 128,000 followers. This is her Instagram. Just gonna put it up. You can see. Can I get it there? That usually works. Again, we're not the tech guys. DeAndrea Damone. So she reposts this story because Tamir Rice's mom is trying to build this youth center, and she just reposted for the GoFundMe. She asked everyone to give $23. Kyrie Irving, he's the post. On top of the $40,000 that they raised in one day for Tamir Rice's mom to build the youth center, Kyrie Irving donated $50,000. And so they raised a little over $90,000 for Tamir Rice's youth center that's going to be built in his name. And just so you know, I always got to be clear because we like to hold everybody accountable. This is Tamir Rice's mom who had already put money up to build the youth center. So this is not like one of those projects where you raise money for a school for 7 years and you never start the school. You know, you just keep raising the money. She was already putting her own money up, and she went to raise additional funds to finish the job and got $90,000 from the black community. So if you see the GoFundMe is up, you want to go give your $23 to support the memory of Tamir Rice and the youth center. So shout out to DeAndrea. Definitely follow her. She's doing amazing things. Very young, but just action based. And then shout out to Kyrie Irving and shout out to the black community at large. That's just, you know, when we want to get something done, we've been proving since the Target boycott that if we just keep doing what we're doing, we keep letting whatever they're doing over there force us to get closer. That is what's happening by default. And by getting closer and making these unified moves, we start to really see in real time how powerful we are. We can really move that.
Absolutely.
We can really move that. So shout out to us.
And I want to thank you for not allowing us to end on that down note, but in fact, on an uplifting note. That's good. I'm glad that we were able to do that. We invite you, of course, if you're listening and you just stumbled on us, we appreciate you as our co-host. We're here every Friday at noon, and you know, until we finish. But we're trying to keep it at that 2-hour mark. But sometimes we got too many things to cover, and there's just so much to talk about sometimes. So we appreciate you bearing with us, but we really do appreciate you as being part of the audience, part of not just the audience, but really our co-host, and chiming in each and every week. So we invite you to do so. Next Friday, we'll be back at noon. And, well, we got a holiday coming up here sometime, but we'll figure all that out. We'll plan to be here next week at the same time. Just wanted to make sure. Next Friday is actually the 4th of July. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But we're planning to be here. Maybe we'll record from a beach somewhere. Who knows?
I'm not opposed to that.
You think we got technical problems now? Let's try and record from a location on the beach.
It's going to be
But
an
anyway.
interesting Independence Day. But we won't, you know, we don't.
That's not our Independence Day. It's just July 4th.
Right. So we'll see right on the heels of Juneteenth how we're gonna celebrate. But yeah, we still, like Curtis said, guys. We appreciate you. We couldn't do the show without you. You'll see in the live chat if you hit the live chat replay. Just the phenomenal comments. We weren't even able to get to all of them, but I especially appreciate Anita just really highlighting how many people in this current administration would not qualify themselves under birthright citizenship. From Stephen Miller to Ted Cruz to Michael Powell, Murdoch. Like this, that was really cool. And
And Melania Trump and her parents.
Melania,
Yeah.
so again, we never hear about the Europeans when it comes to the
And Elon and it, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Anyway.
yes. So yes, we are here every Friday. Definitely appreciate you all, and that's all I got. So you can take us out, buddy.
Thank you for joining us. It's This Week in Black America. Hope to see you next week, same time, 12 noon Eastern. And we have the latest on what's going on in Black America.